Sweet.
Alrighty.
So,
All right, guys, welcome back to the Grace, Accept, Evolve podcast with James and Ray. How you doing today, James?
I am doing pretty fantabulous. Ray, thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Fantabulous. Love that word. Very cool word. Myself, yeah, strangely enough, I've been pretty tired this week, to be honest. Something's going on where it's like, I feel like some things are taking extra energy, even if it's more mental, emotional energy than physical energy. But I'm currently in a state where me and a few friends, we are doing a devotional practice where we pick a devotion every day of our choice, like a meditation, walking, yoga, and we pick it for 7 days just to devote to ourselves and the divine of our choice or higher self, whatever, even just ourselves. And so mine's yoga, and I skipped my practice this morning, but it's just to get it done sometime during the day. And yeah, I did it right before our recording. So that was really nice. Really nice.
Wow. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And how long did you say it's going? What's the duration of the devotion? Or is it
about 7 days? And okay. I mean, always my intention when I do something for 7 days, I have it in the back of my mind that it's basically the foundation of something longer for the most part. But for the people that are, friends that are doing it with me, I'm only asking them to do it for 7 days, or, they're joining with me for 7 days just to experience it. There's no pressure to continue. And really, there's no pressure, honestly, to show up every day. If anything, we just draw back to the practice and remember that we do have the intention to devote some time to ourselves, even if the time gets away from us, if that makes sense. Even just the awareness that that's going to be the intention at some point. And that might be a little bit confusing, but it's just, the fact is sometimes people still don't get to their devotional practice because it takes a while sometimes to cultivate something very consistently. So yeah, I guess I'm on day 3 of yoga, and it's been very peaceful. It's helped to create some peace. There we go. I have not been very peaceful, but it's helped to cultivate peace in my life.
Sweet,
when I need it.
Beautiful. And does it feel a certain way? Does it feel more beneficial or different that you're doing it with a group of friends? Like, does it feel more extra special, or versus like if you were, initiating to just do it independently?
Honestly, I'm kind of like leading the group. So
okay.
Program versus participate. Gotcha. I won't say it's a pressure, but there is a responsibility, I think, on the leader that created said program to do said program.
Yeah, for sure.
So it actually holds me more accountable. And actually, one of my friends that wasn't really in the group that's doing it, she called me randomly a couple days ago, and she's like, I need to do some things for myself. Can we just text each other every day to check in and make sure we're doing what we said we wanted to do? And that's really been helpful as well. So yeah, I have a lot of people in my life that really are wanting to, how do I want to put it? I don't know if it's even like self-care, but I truly feel like what we're really trying to do is pull some things off of our plate by dedicating time to ourselves. Like, moments like this will bring more clarity, if that makes sense. We're trying to make space for clarity by doing the devotional practice. I think that's what the devotion brings in, is like clarity and yeah, things like that. So
beautiful. Yeah. I have well, when you were sharing it, what it brought up for me is actually I had a meeting before a meeting that I was talking about, with Claire and such. And I was talking, me and our friend Don was talking before the meeting, and yeah, and I was just sharing how much, as a meditation host or facilitator, like I meditate, when even though I'm facilitating, I'm actually meditating at the same time. And so I was sharing with him how actually hosting meetings and having meetings, it's a mutual benefit, and it's obviously a symbiotic thing in a relationship or connection. And I just ensured it was like, yo, I'm definitely meditating while I'm facilitating. It's just it's just coming out in a different way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'd either meditate as a participant or I meditate as a facilitator, which is just a different type of experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so in somewhat it's easy, or it keeps me consistent,
Yeah.
because hosting a group, hosting meetings, like you said, as accountability, like, oh, okay, I actually, put out the signal, the flag for people to show up.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
have to be there. But in addition to that, I'm getting something from it too. So like if we're
Right.
meditating in nature, if whatever preparation or routine comes up for the day, like I'm just as in awe as the guest, or just, benefiting as much as the guest by participating. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel you on that.
I know that, like, probably even with what you do, we probably get a similar response. Like, people will thank us for what we do, and we're like, you just don't even know how much like this has like changed my life, and like how the participation and the community also, I think that they believe we just do it for them, and I always try to correct them. I was like, at least for me, it looks like a selfless act a lot of times, but it is really fun, and it is really great to have a community and to have people to share ideas with, especially like-minded people. And
Right.
so I always reiterate to them, it's like, yeah, you're welcome. And, thank you for being here, because without you, this wouldn't exist. And we
Right.
have a lot of fun here, or we find a lot of peace here, and we find a lot of perspective here. And it's all a contribution. So it's like, I always think it's interesting when people thank me for things, for holding this space, when I get these weird feelings where I'm going to get emotional a little bit. I can feel it in my eyes, but I don't think I'm going to cry. But it's
Okay.
like, it really is fun. Like, I wouldn't do it as consistently with a group of people if it wasn't.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm definitely benefiting a lot from just as much as they are. And I just don't, if people haven't led groups, they may not get that. But when they do, if they do, they will understand too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it makes me think of, and I might have shared this in the last episode or one of the last episodes, but someone recently, when I was in Austin, she said about her programs that she offers. She said she received the download of the message that what she's creating is creating her. And so she's like fully aware that through the acts and through the activity, through the action that she's taking, she's also evolving and getting something from it and benefiting. And then that's also serves as the energy, aka motivation, is her personal growth, along with, what she's offering, or what's the growth that's coming through her, through her activities. So yeah, when she said that, I was it was one of those statements of like, oh yeah, I totally get that. And yeah, I'm totally like internalizing that, because there's full awareness that and I appreciated her expression is, that full awareness that, oh, this is just as much as for me as it is for those that attend. And even like when we started out before this episode as well, setting that intention that what's coming through us, or what's being shared, is beneficial all the way around. It's beneficial for our ears or my ears and any other of the listeners, and so forth and so on. So yeah, and I also feel like that's a balanced way to go about things, at least for me. Like I said, because if it was any other way, I might get depleted, and I guess maybe even to maybe, I guess, in a way, piggyback off our last episode, or at least when we were talking about the grace piece. yeah, just kind of taking a step back, or just having a moment of awareness and being like assessing of like, okay, am I really, what am I getting? What am I getting from this activity or from this connection? Am I really benefiting from it? Or if I don't feel like I'm benefiting from it, what can I tweak in my own perception or approach to where it does feel beneficial? And so
Right.
sometimes that's the answer or solution as well. It's like, I need to bring into my own awareness how I'm benefiting and hold that as like the key focus of the goal or the vision for doing something. Because if I lose sight of it, then my attention might go towards something else, and I might feel differently. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah,
oh.
I think that's always been something, especially with becoming somewhat of like leader myself, which I didn't feel that way up until like recently, to be honest. And it's just been, I feel like intention is everything, energy is everything, and I also have really struggled with like being like sometimes very human in front of I call them my friends because they've become they're so close in my community that I call them friends because they truly feel that way. But sometimes I struggle to let them know that I'm having a rough day, or I am, upset, or I'm having, just different things because, I don't want to bring them down. Like they really look to me to help them, feel better or shift perspectives. But lately I've been pushing myself as even just like a teacher somewhat to be able to show that like how I actually move through tough emotions. I think that's what I do. That's what I teach. And so a lot of times I get to teach people after the fact, but lately with some things going on, I've been very like exhausted in front of them and telling them like, and actually I do want to talk a little bit about it. I don't know if I want to talk specifically about some issues within the world at large, what I'm having issues with, but I was curious how your dialogue when it comes to kind of like caring about, we can call it any kind of politics of any kind, really, as a spiritual teacher and as someone that holds space for all, I feel like we're very welcoming people. We want to welcome all people into circles and things like that. Or at least we would like to think that we would. Do you ever feel tugs back and forth around like how to feel when you're around, because with the state of the world, people typically like to pick sides. So as spiritual teachers, do you like to pick sides, or how do you deal with opposing views? How do you deal with opposing views, and how do you deal with loving people on the opposing views? Because I have some messages that were given to me this week, but I'm curious if we hear the same ones.
Well, ask that question again. Hold on. So you said, hold on. Say the two components again. What's the question?
So when basically when we see politics ramping up, and like not to talk about any, we don't have to talk about any specifically, but mostly whenever if there does something comes up in the political climate in our world at large and we disagree with a certain other group, how do you try to keep whole when it feels like the culture is trying to fracture us through ideas and, pit one person against the other, and then sometimes maybe even family. It doesn't even have to be through politics. This could even be like just people that you care about or people that you see, these schisms that like start to create because of differing viewpoints. And sometimes it is really amplified whenever it's all on the media and things like that. But what do you do when you start to feel that pull to pick a side, or do you pick a side and you just like let other people go with grace? Like, does that make sense, or do I still distill it a little bit more?
Yeah. I can respond. So I guess just talking directly and just talking it out. Usually I have the same approach irregardless of the topic or scenario, irregardless of the context. So again, like I was at a meeting earlier today, I was sharing how, I guess this is, again, getting more, I mean, it's not super private, but it's just sharing with the public, right? A big part of my meditation practice is driving. So driving in the city that I live in,
right?
There's bumps, there's potholes, there's, people on bicycles, walking, drunk driving, people driving and texting, people who driving with emotions. Actually, so for me, driving is the most interaction I have with the mass public, on a daily basis. Again, it may be a certain type of interaction, but again, people are on the road. We're on the road together. We're all trying to get to a destination, and someone's, driving erratic. Someone's emotional. Someone might be in a rush to get to work. Some people are just driving calm. Some people are driving really, really slow. So my navigation or goal or role, my intention is to get from A to B safely and, in harmony. And I just keep that as my focus and my intention. So almost like when we, like we were just talking about with being focused on an intention about doing an activity, what is my intention? Like, what is my main purpose in it? What is my main goal? And I kind of let that navigate or guide the activity or the response or the interaction. And so even if the context is politics, there's still an assessment of like, well, who am I talking to? Like, what's all happening in the moment? What is the context? Is this a family member? Is this someone I have to, is this someone that's being irate? Is this someone that's trying to have an argument? Or is this like, what is the feeling of, so I guess it's on a case by case basis in my own personal interaction with it. But usually I still revert back to intention as far as like people goes and ways of communication, solutions, resolving, allowing people to talk. So in a way, it's almost like still I could get caught up in that story. Like this person has a story happening in their head, whether it's political, whether it's emotional, whether it's spiritual, whether it's, related to the job, and being present for, what's happening in the moment.
I like the driving example. I like that driving example a lot because also, not gonna lie, I'm thinking of all the times we've driven together in the city that you live in. And you'll use, I remember that one a couple of times you'll honk the horn. I was like, James, you honk the horn? You're like, yeah, I tell people that's how we communicate down here. I was like, very interesting, very cool. And definitely feel like something that I've been leaning into quite a bit is, my focus is the good for all. That's what's really grounded me, and whenever I do see things trying to make me say this or say that or lean this way or lean that way, I'm like, what is the good for everyone? How and what are we not seeing here? And truly, even if I find something in our world that's slightly dangerous for one group over another, and I really feel that way about something, I still I still want people that think that this was the safer option. Even though I see danger there, I want them to be safe as well. Even if they're, in my opinion, I think something is ignorant, just being honest, like this is what I have to go through on a daily basis at times, not always, but currently I'm like, wow, I just can't understand that. I think that was the stupidest decision and it's dangerous. I think of the people that may not see it that way. And I think, wow, I really hope that they don't have to see that danger. And I hope what I'm thinking is wrong. And I hope it doesn't happen to the people that thought it was the best choice. Like I still think of all, and that's what kind of gets me to not be so inflamed and still try to think of solutions that benefit everyone. Because I think that's what And I don't know that everybody's called to think that way. I don't have the answer for that, but I do know it helps me in those moments to really lean in and not get distracted and not think that I'm on one team or another, but that we are all um we are all one, and continue to make sure I remember that even when the world wants us to believe that we are separate, which is what I think happens a lot. It's, there's a lot of lies out there making us believe that we're not the same, and that we shouldn't be in this together, and it's in those moments, I will tell you, James, my body has a different reaction. Like, I literally I will not sleep well. I will feel this energy in my body that I don't feel on a daily basis. And it feels like I'm not in my body or something. It's very unnatural. It feels better to remember that we are all one and we should all care about each other, versus the other one, which is just does not feel, I can feel it in my body. That's the only way I can describe it. So, but yeah, part of me did want to maybe mention this. And again, I'm not too interested on maybe focusing in on a topic, because I really want people to think about this in any part of their life. Maybe they are disrupted. Maybe their inner peace is disrupted by political climates, but also maybe there's something going on in your family as well, or at your job. This really can happen anytime, anywhere. And honestly, anytime I believe that I am the one that is right, I feel like I suffer the most. And I don't think that I didn't realize it until kind of got to this part of my journey, that thinking I was right was causing me to suffer. But it really was. It's exhausting thinking that I'm right and everyone else is wrong. It's really tiring.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds, I could feel that. It sounds like it. Yeah. And so actually it's interesting because, or synchronistic, because one of the things I've been talking about recently is I just got comfortable, or it just resonated on a deeper level of the word practice. So I'm not sure if anyone, well, I never talked about it before, and I'm not sure, I'm sure no one ever paid attention, but I rarely ever used the word practice in hosting and meetings or describing anything. Cause I was like, I ain't practicing. I was like, I'm doing it. Okay. So even if I think of, say, life or the world or people or personalities or an experience on a spectrum. And so on one end of the spectrum may be, maybe different degrees of okay, I'm doing it at 70%, I'm doing it at 80%, or I'm doing it at 20%. On some level, I'm doing it. So in my head, I was like, I'm not practicing. I'm just doing it. And just so da 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 da. And then so recently, the context of, okay, it's sunk in on a deeper level of everything, all the techniques that we do when we meet in groups and we gather. It's I have to implement this real time. So I actually have to live it, not doing it, sitting down, meditating, focusing in on the breath and using visualization, all these things. That's one thing, as at a meeting within the group. Yet, as you're saying, how is it to do it when I'm actually at work, or when I'm actually in a job that, in a situation I desire to be, quote unquote, different, or when I'm in communication with a loved one and there's uncomfort. How well, and again, to what degree am I able to notice the breath, relax the muscles? Even if I see a situation of frustration or something that, agitates me, how much am I able to shift the narrative or the visualization, the images in my head, the imagery in my head, and picture resolution, or picture the situation turning out, picture, receive inspiration to continue to move forward, or to make steps, activate steps, versus okay, another scenario, again, I might act out of anger. And again, that's maybe appropriate, or that's authentically what happened. Now, do I want to respond or react that way all the time? No. So again, that's the reason also motivation for hosting or participating or in these types of experiences or advocating for this type of experiences, so to speak, or gatherings, I should say. It's so that, at least that's my intention, is so that it becomes ingrained in my psyche or perhaps the psyche of attendees, and it becomes habit. It becomes natural. It becomes a different sort of program where, okay, if, like you say, the context is work and I got a coworker and my spine is on fire or my upper back or, or the lower neck area is super, super tight. And yeah. And so, or someone presents a really charged up issue or topic. It's like, okay, can we bring harmony or can we bring balance to this situation? Can we, and even, in a larger scale, can this feeling of balance or element of balance come to a better agreement? I was like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure. And I could say better agreement or at least clarity about what someone's true intentions are. Because especially on the political scheme, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of illusions, and there could be ulterior motives and plans and all this other sort of stuff. But obviously that could happen politically, personally, whatever the case may be. And so at least it might bring me to more clarity about what the issue is or what the intentions are, which then could still bring me more to clarity about how to proceed forward and what action to take from here.
Yeah.
And so again, I definitely want to be clear to the audience as well, is that at least in my journey for sure, definitely this meditation or these ideologies and philosophies, at least from my lens, doesn't definitely mean to be passive and just to, passivity is appropriate in some situations, and then taking action as well too is important, equally as important.
Yeah.
And so again, going back to my own intention is, I wanted to have action. I just, I wanted to be, I prefer to act from the most part, from a very centered place and then a very clear place. Now, obviously there are moments to where there's rage and there's, the bull comes out or something like that. But, and I'm okay with that as long as it's not every day or all the time, because even, again, going back to getting caught up in narratives or stories of the society or what's happening all the time. It's like there's news headlines flashing every day. Like even when I go to check the Weather Channel, and forgive me to the Weather Channel if they ever give us a sponsorship, but or we could discuss shifting things. But if anyone notices, like if you go to weather.com or even AccuWeather or whatever, it's always reporting disastrous things in the world. It's like this area just flooded and this area just, had a tsunami. And it's like, God, dog, can we, can show me the beach?
You show me the beach?
Like, I just want to know what degree today is, like, and that sort of thing. And I guess even elaborate, it's almost like social media in a sense. It's like, even when I go through social media, which I rarely do anyway, like I check it, but I don't really sit there and just scroll because I had to start earlier the other day or whatever. It's like, it's insane to me, my own interpretation. It's putting me in the head space or in the lives of other people every single day. And it's almost like I have to just be aware that I don't, for my own sake, I don't have the capacity to be aware of what everyone's or what a large number of people are doing or what's happening in their life every single day. I do have the capacity to glance and communicate and share a little bit. And then again, that's my own capacity. So this is me speaking about myself. And I say that to say I was using that as an example for activities in the world. Like I don't fully have the capacity to be ultra engaged in every single event happening around the world. Now I do have the capacity to do something about things that I see locally or things within my household or things that are happening with friends and hopefully as well too inspire again friends that are more connected and have more influence and or hold certain positions and so forth and so on. I just know my lane for sure is to take care of, be centered, and then address what pops up in my immediate space. And then also, I guess let's put it this way. I have to make sure my cup is full because it's easily like there's so many, that's why marketing is so high and stuff. There's organizations, even to go back to social media, there's organizations and companies that they do want to know what's happening in everybody's life every single day. Like their computer programs, algorithms, all this kind of stuff that they benefit from certain behavior, being aware of the behavior patterns, and even influence in the cookies on our browsers, even being able to influence the behavior and the mindsets of people, individual people, on an every single day basis. As a human, I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I try to, in those situations, I try to keep perspective. You know what I mean? I try to, again, have a balanced perspective or keep a certain perspective of like, okay, what am I capable of doing? In some situations, it might be donate. In some situations, it might be share. In some situations, it might just be conversation, passing on the message of like, oh, this is a thing. This is happening in the world. And again, it might spark someone else. But yeah. So that's kind of like my approach to those different elements or scenarios. Yeah. And again, it's on a case by case basis, but definitely action, definitely taking time out to make sure, internally I'm centered or solid or clear as much as I can be, and then kind of going from there, making a decision, choices from there.
I really like how you said, I like to make sure my cup is full, because as you said that, I just got this vision of like media and social media, if we want to distinguish the two, as like one is news and then one is just like people's stories and news on our social media pages. When you said fill my cup up, I actually saw a bunch of empty cups just pushing over and over and over. It's like the minute you even bring a little bit of water in it, and maybe it's not a full cup, but you maybe found some piece and it started to fill up, they push it over again and they push it over again. It's like anytime you get any kind, and that's why, even though I do like your definition of practice versus doing, and it's like, oh, I do it, I still, I still enjoy the name practice, even though I really enjoy what you just shared, because I will keep that into account some now. But that's kind of what I think about for a practice, because a practice is controlled. I can control my mat, and I can control like the journaling I do in the morning. But what I can't control is when that person gives me a dirty look because they, know something about me that they didn't before. And which is something that I feel like I'm dealing with. I did speak out about some things, and I feel like some people in my life have looked at me a little bit differently because I spoke up about a topic that actually kind of made me annoyed and or felt a little dangerous. And so I made that clear. And I do feel like some people look at me different, and I've had to really kind of stand tall and be like, you know what? It's okay if people look at me different. This is an aspect of what I think, and I'm allowed to say what I think. And if that changes their whole perspective of me off of one opinion, it doesn't do that for me, for them. And that's what I hold at my center. It's like, they will probably get over this. And if they don't, that's okay. But I'm not going to let the way they treat me necessarily be how I treat them in return. I'm still going to smile. I'm still going to say good morning, because that's not all of me. One belief I have is not all of who I am.
Right.
But a lot of people like to classify us that way. But yeah. And so with the practice on these moments where I can control in the morning or in the afternoon when I have time with myself, the showtime is on the field when you come against the people and like you're being tested in real time. How is your practice showing up on the field, in the middle of this something you couldn't control, basically? Right. And I've seen so many benefits from that. Like, it has helped me take deep breaths when I do feel that shift of energy, maybe feeling judged, or also just being more open to speak up about certain things that I like that I couldn't before because of Christian or background around people, that I slowly start to be more vocal about things I like, whether people like it or not, and having that confidence in myself. And that's also helped me respect others when they speak out about things. That's why I respect other people's thoughts and opinions, even if I don't like them, is because I know what it's like to be on the other side of it and hated for what I think or feel. So I try to give people the same respect. But like, so all these things to say, yes, there's been so many benefits, like with yoga and with meditation, with journaling in general. Journaling has saved me from a lot of, I won't even say conversations that I could have had like in an angered state, but it has helped me have perspective again, that a lot of times when I get in an argument, it's because I feel right. I feel like the right one in the situation, and I'm not taking the other person's perspective into account. If you're listening to this, you're like, well, Ray, not everybody is right. Like maybe this person's really wrong in my life. You could be correct. And what I really feel is like, it's never helpful to point out where someone's wrong. And I feel like I've always gotten it's been a better conversation when I can at least hear where they're coming from, even if I think they're wrong. It helps me to coexist. Coexisting, I think, is one of my ultimate, in harmony, like you said earlier. How can we continue on together in the best way possible?
Right. For sure. Very sure.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But I just enjoy how much I love how you did distinguish the doing. I will keep that into account. And I like, as always, I always like how we think of things very differently, but I think it's like the same but different. It's just whatever resonates with whoever. I would be interested. I would be interested in knowing who listened and like who does see it as a practice and who likes the more doing, more active part of it. I'd be really curious what resonates with who. Not to make it a competition or anything, but more of like, I'm really interested in how things resonate with different people, if that makes sense, and the different types of,
But this even goes back to when we were talking about context. So I feel like both are applicable. It's just in what context. So in the actual context of the gathering and the event, or like you say, the day or the experience in that moment, it's an experience. I am doing. It's a doing. Like we're doing hand postures, or it's a happening, whichever anyone might, refer to. It's a happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
It's happening.
And so now in the context of everyday events outside the meeting, it's a practice. So it's a practice for those everyday events and
interesting
experiencing it or it happening in those situations as well. So it's a happening and an experience or a doing at the event. And then at the same time, it's also practice for everyday situations and everyday events. And so it's a little bit of both, or it's a duality type, scenario.
Yeah.
Which again, and I'm kind of getting the inclination, we don't have to go there, but I'll touch on it a little bit. Again, these situations that seem opposing, and when I was talking about having the ability or having more clarity about the motives or the intentions behind people, with certain viewpoints, or just having more context, is like in the context of what their intention is or their motivation is, they are right in the context of their motivation.
Right. Yeah.
And so in the context of a different motivation or a different set of experiences or a different mindset, that person is more in alignment, that decision or process. And even in saying that, I'm like, straying away a little bit from the labels of right and wrong, but more so like, okay, like I said, harmony, what's logical, what makes sense, what's more beneficial for masses of people or
Right.
the greater good, the greater collective. And so again, if there's a situation where major companies profit in a certain kind of way that we're not aware of, or that's not privy to us, and that was kind of discussed in the boardroom. And again, even if I'm viewing, let's just go there, a country as a business, if I'm viewing society as a business or looking at it from a business lens, a decision that may make business sense to a company or people who are generating revenue off of certain events, or it may not make sense on a everyday individual level. And so this person may be making a business decision, even though it looks, it's labeled whatever we want to call it, council, collective, group, board, whatever. But on a personal level, even almost like, I'll touch on it a little bit, just a little bit. Some people's political views are business based. It's not like, it's not so personal about this and that or beliefs about this and that. They're like, hey, my taxes, like, hey, this promotes my business, which helps me provide for my family and provides for my employees and and it's what I set out to do when I started business. This is business. Like, I don't know, everybody else could be talking about something different, but their political views are based off of business or financial moves. Yeah. And so I again, based off of that context, that's where their passion comes from, and that's where their motivation comes from. While the other person be like, hey, it just ain't right, or I'm struggling, or something just popped up, or this doesn't feel good. You get what I mean? Like, this doesn't feel like this doesn't feel appropriate. This doesn't feel like this angers me. This feels like discrimination. This feels like whatever the feeling is coming up in the moment. Again, one person might be logical, making a logical decision or a mental decision, and the other person might be making an emotional decision. So again, there's different motivations involved, and a lot of smoke and mirrors, or does just say layers in some cases. So I tend to kind of keep all that in account, depending on how I again move or act or engage in situations. And so again, I still encourage everyone to just have an appropriate response, or even if it's authentic, but appropriate based on the situation. Because again, I don't advocate for again, someone suppressing themselves, or someone belittling themselves, or anything like that, or feeling like one perspective is more important than the other, and this, that, and the third. It's more about be like their viewpoint is not there as far as like a side inside of politics, but I'm just saying that person who's listening to this, let's even clarify it a little bit more. The person who's listening to this, your viewpoint is valid, and your viewpoint is important. And so figuring out, it's even as important to give it time, give it clarity, even strategize or be clear about the action you want to take on it, and the change and the effective change, how effective or the effective change you want to make. So that's more my encouragement. Who's ever hearing this or listening to this, it's important and valid to approach and navigate and maneuver and act on, your viewpoints and choices. So,
very good point.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, James, is there anything else we need to chat about today?
I don't think so. I don't necessarily have The only other thing that had come up for me was about being in the flow.
Mm.
And so lately I was talking about how recently I made a decision to be more in the flow. Like, for instance, usually as a fixed water sign, I guess revealing kind of like my astrology there, I might often feel like a lake or a glacier, like a calm lake. But lately, society and activities and things have kind of felt like like boom, 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 boom happening. Life has been happening.
Right.
Things have been happening. And so at one point this year, and I'll just summarize it or paraphrase it, I consciously made a decision. I was like, all right, it's springtime. Like, the energy of spring is very like blossoming, opening, coming out of winter. There's rebirth, the whole Easter and that sort of thing. And then going into summer is, a whole different type of energy, but it's really the earth, our life is moving and happening. Like, fall and winter is more of like the chill back, let me kind of go within vibe. And even fall, let me prepare for when life slows down or the environment slows down a bit. And so, except for those people that live in cold climates where it snows, but still, you got to stay inside. What I mean? They get snowed in. Like, we don't really get too much snow here in the South. And so, I was like, I made a decision. I was like, oh, all right, I'm gonna stay in tune with the universe or with the society. I'm gonna be a river. I'm just gonna hop in a river, and I'm going, and we're gonna be a river at least for 2 seasons.
Okay.
And so, since I made that decision, like, so many things have been happening, and obviously some trust comes with that, and working through some emotions or resistance and stuff. But part of the struggle comes from the resistance.
Right.
Like, me resisting, like, at one point I was like, oh, this is happening, that's happening, and I don't know, wait. I don't know how to maintain, blah, blah, blah. But then once I decided, I'm just going to be in the river and go with it, it's a lot easier. Things are still happening, but it's a lot easier. It's a lot smoother. Address it, don't address it, keep going. I'll go and stay focused. Again, even going back to that of being focused on intention and purpose, but being clear about intention, being clear about it, purpose, my activity, what's in harmony, what resonates, what's not resonating, what's coming, what's going. A, I don't have to pay attention to all of it as much, but then B, like, really noticing and being in tune with what is happening, what is coming to fruition, where is my energy being called. And is it in alignment with my intention and my purpose and my focus?
Yeah.
And so the decision becomes easy of like, this is in the flow. This is in the flow of where I'm flowing, where God has called me to flow, where spirit has called me to flow, where the divine has called me to flow, and what's laid in front of me. And so I need to, it's, at least for me, my time to give my focus, they call it eye on a sparrow. Keep my eye on the sparrow, keep it moving, keep action going, stay in the flow as much as possible. And so lots been getting done, lots been happening, and I'm in the flow. So that's been a huge shift for me, because again, usually historically I'm like laid back, and it's when things start popping and different things start happening, I'm resisting it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, slow down, or, calm it down. I just need to chill in one or two things. But lately, I just been on a go, and it's been, it feels good actually to be moving at this pace and moving forward. I kind of feel like I get, when you say, cause I know you're ambitious and you're active, and you like we talked a little bit last time, you move. And so it feels good to like be in some movement, at least moving more than I used to. And then, So that's the only other component that was, coming up.
One thing I want to share just for people that are listening, and if I heard you right, James, I feel like a big part of what's helping you with that movement is the mantra and the intention. Like if you, once you feel the resistance come up, if you didn't have that commitment, so to speak, or the intention to, and you kind of have it, it sounds like you have it for a time frame. Sounds like you said 2 seasons. And, but if not, you would just kind of do what you used to do. And there's no reason to demonize. There's no, or say, oh, what you were doing before was wrong. Like, I think sometimes people can hear that and be like, oh, he saw he was doing something wrong. I think you just wanted a different experience. And this is going to carry you to seeing something new, or, also leaning into new feelings and emotions that maybe sometimes you shy away from. And that's okay. Like, again, sometimes we just don't want to experience a discomfort or more movement, and that's okay. Like you know what I mean? It's
for sure.
Something came up like a couple weeks ago, I think on the podcast, on my other one, where I was talking about, you can, how do I want to put it? You can want to change something without hating where you are. And that's kind of what I think. It's almost like, I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if it's something different, but like, I think people get afraid to not commit to a certain way of being because they've done it for such a long time, or switch up something in their routine, or even do something different. And I'm like, stop thinking about it as you quitting, or how do I want to put it? Like, not even that some people are afraid to quit something because they're like, I've been committed to this for so long. But I see it as like, we're like switching up the movie. Like, I've been watching this movie for a while, but having a new intention feels like you're switching up the movie a little bit and you're having a different experience. It's just, that's all it is. And you can let me know if what that sounds like.
Yeah. It's a little bit of all of it, because for sure, again, up for interpretation and how people receive it, or in the context of their situation. If the motivation comes from discomfort, great. If the motivation comes from boredom, great. If the motivation comes from inspiration, great. Well, I say great, but actually, that's a good point. Being aware of where's the motivation coming from. And like you say, going back to that intention. And so if this person, because sometimes, again, where it's coming from can be blinding, or putting a cast or a hue on all the action and the activity and what's going on.
Right.
And so being clear about someone's intention and maybe realigning or readjusting can make a world of difference on the choices and the decisions and the activity. And an experience can become then more fun than miserable or suffering.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm actually having fun. And let's just bring it full circle. The same thing about when we talk about hosting meetings. I'm actually having fun. Like, I'm actually benefiting. I'm actually so thankful to the people who show up and the audience. And I'm thankful people are thankful for me. And so again, it's a symbiotic mutual benefit. And so I get so much from it. They get so much from it. And then I feel like we learn and we grow, at least that's a hope or an intention or a prayer together. And yeah. So that's.
Can I ask you, I don't know if you know this quote, and maybe you've told it to me actually. The way you start something is the way it continues, or like the way you start something is somehow how you end it. Do you know that one? Did you tell me that one?
I said, I might have said something similar because.
What is it? What is what you say?
All right, audience. So one of my a good friend, we were talking about relationships or partnerships or what have you, and he was giving advice that the way a situation starts is usually how it continues. So in the context, in the
How long ago
context,
did you talk to this friend? Sorry, I
it's
know
been
I'm cutting
years.
off.
No, this was years ago. This was
Because
some
I've
years
had
ago.
this mantra in my head for years. Like,
Yeah, it was some years. It's been
this
some
has
years.
shaped me for years. So that's like,
Yeah.
okay, so it was you that told me this.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
been some
what.
years.
So the way you start something is how it continues. Okay, sorry for cutting you off, but I was
Yeah, no,
really
it's all good.
curious.
Yeah. And so it was basically in the context of, okay, let's just use again the primary example. If I'm in a partnership and there's tendency, man, we covered a lot of topics in this podcast, but if there's a tendency to, be friendly and kind and, show what they call it, showing the good face, showing the good side, quote unquote good, but showing the loving side and be on best behavior for like 6 months. But like after 6 months, sometimes people find out stuff or people get tired of being happy every day, every time they see the partner, or get tired of being polite, or because again, there may have been a person may have been showing a certain side of themselves to reel a person in or to manifest a situation, but then really wasn't being their genuine, authentic self or how they are every day.
Yeah.
And so once that gets tired or that inspiration leaves, it's like, then comes in the time of like, oh, okay, dang, I shouldn't have, or actually and I guess just to go there and see how this comes out, but warning signs might happen in the first 6 months. And I know I've been, quote unquote, guilty of this myself, of people saying certain things early on at the beginning of a relationship, but I was so focused on what I wanted that I completely ignored whatever they were saying. I was like, okay, no, that's no problem. We'll deal with that. And then that same issue come up at a later date and time.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, dang, I'm tired of, let's just say it was trust. And this is an actual scenario. I had somebody tell me early on, like, oh, I have trust issues. I have trust issues. I was like, oh, no, it's okay. That's fine. Well, don't worry about it. We'll get through it. It's all good. Da, 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 da. Man, them trust issues came up at a later, 6 months down the line, whatever. It was a problem. I didn't have it in me to move past it at that, further. And so that's kind of like what a bit of that mantra, that saying is about. It's like how we start something, or basically how I'm taking it, just be who we are, be who we are, again, do a self check and see what the intention is, motivation, because, if I wasn't this polite, every day, then it's kind of tough that, I'm still going to have to be that polite, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. That's why the person is, that's why this situation is manifesting or is being attracted to me, because I'm putting out the polite energy. And so I really need to be a polite person.
I would almost,
not every day, but go ahead.
I would almost say that's how people get attached to you. There's some parts where, like I can see attraction coming in. And also though, those people can't stay in your realm if you're not giving off the certain vibe. So I actually see it more as like, that's how they stay, not maybe so much how they got there, but that could be why they continue to orbit and like attach. Like that's how and I think it can be both, obviously it's just like a little bit of both, but if you're not always masking. But also, James, I just want to share like that's been something I've thought about with jobs, with books, any activity I've done. I say how I start something is how it's going to continue, or maybe even potentially how it's going to end, know? And so when I start to feel anxious around a project or a relationship or something like that, I get centered. Because part of me is like, if I really want to do this in this direction, I think part of it's perception. I think part of it is the energy you start something with is also the energy you carry through it. And so if I have a certain judgment or a certain fear going into it, but yet I'm still going to move through it with this fear intact, I want to have more either perspective on that fear or even some calm and figure out what the fear is first before I just like run into the fire, because it may not be a fire if I just calm down and figure out what's going down and causing the fear.
Yeah.
So I've used that plenty of times, not just in relationships, but most.
So this is juicy, y'all. Listeners, ourselves, audience, all of the above. Same thing, political, climate, disruptions, whatever. Moving through the fire, clarity. How is, what is my purpose in engaging in these conversations and activities, and what frequency am I going to use to attract the outcome that's desired? And so just again, like you're saying, having that, taking that extra step to be clear, or like you say, be comfortable, or even, have a shift in perception just before moving forward, or to move forward, to give yourself grace or acceptance, or, evolving to better navigate a situation and make make change, make lasting, effective change. Because again, if that's the intention and the desire, being at our best, or giving it our best, and navigating it, navigating until we get to the outcome is important.
I wanted to make a TikTok that I was pretty sure could have went semi-viral. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Like I didn't make it. So I don't have the proof for that, but something within my anger and within what I wanted to talk about, especially with my ex evangelical roots, I had a feeling it was going to press some buttons. And I even did a card reading for myself, and I was like, universe, should I talk about this? And in the 3-card spread that I got, and I even asked them, I said, there's a yes or a no card, like a clear yes or no card that says those words. Yes. But they're 2 different cards. Or no. And the last one was no. Oh. And I asked them to give me a clear yes or no, and it said no.
Wow.
And so I think now, post like a few days later, not that it would have been a bad situation for me, like maybe I could have kept up with it, but if it would have gone and popped off in the way that I thought that it would, I think I would have continued to attract an audience that wanted to keep talking in that way. And that's not something I want to talk about all the time. So it almost makes me a little bit emotional, because I think that was grace for me. Like, I think even the idea that I had to ask whether to do it or not should have been the grace that I knew was coming from my soul, that this is not the time to talk about that, because I'm seeing other people on TikTok doing similar things, and they're having to talk about these things all the time now because they jumped up 60,000 followers overnight. And that's not really, I don't want to get into division. And I do think I would have put myself on a side, which is fine. Like, part of me wanted to talk about my feelings and my past and all these things, and, totally valid in that. And then they were like, but be aware of the audience you will attract and what they will need you to keep talking about. And if that's not something you want to keep talking about, then you may not want to talk about it in the first place. So when people ask, and I heard this from a quote somewhere too, it's like, I think it was Oprah that said, Carolyn Mays was talking to Oprah on Super Soul Sunday, and she said, that voice, that one that says, hey, wait, maybe you want to wait on that. She said, that's grace. That's God. That's grace. That is your soul asking for pause, or, keeping you from a situation that may not be in alignment with what it is you're really wanting to do. And that is also grace. And so I do think, that was grace stepping in for me, because to be honest, I just don't have the emotional bandwidth to talk about topics very strongly in that way on a daily basis. It would disturb my soul at this point in my journey. I'm not an activist. I am a passive. I don't think what would Jesus do? I think of what would Mother Teresa do? I really do. Yeah, because she was like, never invite me to a rally where people are going against something. Ask me to go to the peace rally, or ask me to go to this. Like, that's what she wanted to facilitate. Don't invite me to the inflammatory and the fighting. Invite me to where we are all searching for the same, when I hear a peace rally, I'm thinking of peace for all, And so I always think, what would Mother Teresa do right now? And she wouldn't put down on a certain group of people, and she wouldn't tell people that they're wrong or stupid or ignorant or all the things that were coming up in my soul that I was triggered to say. And I think I'm better for it. I may not have the following that I probably could have gotten overnight for making a video that way, but it's not, you got to keep it in perspective. You don't want to attract people into your sphere if that's not the direction you're going. It could that could have derailed me from my purpose in a second. You just never know. Like I saw it happen to a creator just the other day. Literally her following jumped like 70,000 overnight. And it's a bunch of people that she doesn't really, that's not what she was talking about prior. That's not what she was talking. Now that's all she's talking about to keep these people satisfied. And so it's taking away from her message where she was talking about healing all the time and all these other things. So yeah, that was grace for me.
So audience out there, one takeaway or message, keep your eyes on the prize and on the sparrow. However that plays out or represents to people.
Is that a song?
That's something out there. It's a common phrase. It's a song, okay. I'm sure probably comes even from some religious literature.
Yeah. I just want to look it up.
But yeah, hopefully the sentiment is still there. If I knew the song, I'd even sing it. But right now, I'm just going to say, keep your eyes.
Jimmy Cliff.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Tunnel vision, even. Well, not tunnel vision. Don't get blinded or anything.
Be totally focused on your objective.
Ooh.
The sentiment. Yeah, this is like actually a song that's been recreated by a bunch of people. Well, I almost want to read the lyrics. Gosh, for some reason.
I don't know what's copyright and all that. Is that a thing?
I think. I think you're allowed to we can at least quote a little bit of it.
Oh yeah. Let's go with the quotes. We already said who it came from, so go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see which part I want to. Keep your eyes on the sparrow when the going gets narrow.
I was about to do that, but
seeing if there's ain't gonna fight with no thief in the night. Won't do it. I'm gonna go where the cold wind don't blow. Keep your eyes on the sparrow when the going gets narrow. And that's just like a little verse with it. But
yeah, I think
when the going gets narrow.
And it's a good message to close out with, for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, James. This was a pleasure as always, my friend.
Yes. Thank you too, Ray. I appreciate you very much.
And we appreciate everybody listening today. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do that. And if you enjoyed this episode, maybe share it with a friend that you think would really enjoy it as well. Leave a kind review, click the 5th star, all the things. And we will be back next week.
Yes. And feel open to, if you want to reach out via email or any social media platforms. Also, too, you're welcome to leave comments or offer any feedback or questions or any topics you would like us to talk about on future episodes. So again, yes, thank you all for being here and listening to the Grace Accept Evolve podcast.
Yes.
With James.
See you guys.
See y'all. Till next time. Peace. No, just kidding. Wait a second. I gotta stop.